Hi guys, and welcome back here to the Dev Realm, and today we have a very exciting series to start. And if you guys are watching here today, basically what we're gonna do here is that we are gonna transform this into an inventory system. So as part of the previous tutorial that I did, if you guys haven't followed this, I created this new asset here, which basically will allow you to, edit a character and change the color, the skin, the gender of the character, and now it will allow you to play with that character. But what we have to do here as well is that we have to create the inventory system, since it's going to be like our RPG framework. So if you haven't watched this series, please check out on the description of the video. I'm going to leave it on the description. But without wasting too much time, what you're going to have to do here is that you just need to download the base project. And then what we're going to do here is that we're going to do some preparations for this video. All right. So the first thing we would like to do here is that we need to go here to the main character, right? And what I'm going to do here is that I would like to create this as more modular as possible. I would like to make it so it's more easy for us to expand this in the future. Let's say you're trying to add this, or necessarily you don't want to add this inventory system to this game. You want to move it to FPS or whatever. We're going to try to make it expandable. The only reason why we're using the starter point is just because we have a challenge to accomplish. Otherwise, it will be quite boring for us to do. All right, so without wasting too much time, what we're going to do here is that I'm going to go to the content and I am going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this master inventory, or let's just give it a better name. Let's call this yeah, master inventory is good. Sounds good. Now what we're going to do here is that we're going to right click. You're going to go back to blueprint class, and we are going to search for an actor component, right? The reason why I'm creating this is because the actor component will allow us to expand this to our character. So basically we have our character here and we attach something to it. So for example, let's say you want to add an inventory system to a, let's say a chest. A chest could be an inventory system. So we're going to be using the inventory system that we're going to attach to the character to make it so it creates this bridge for us. All right, so without wasting here, so what we're going to do is we're going to use the actor component. All right, and we're going to call this BPC, which stands for blueprint component, and we're going to call this inventory. All right, and that's going to be basically the source of our project. So everything will pass it through that. All right. Now I'm going to open up this here. And then the next thing that I would like to do here is to start to set up a couple of things. So the first thing we need here is storage, right? Some kind of way to store items, right? So we're going to right click and we're going to basically go to blueprint and we're going to create a structure. And I'm just going to call this ST inventory. That's it. We're just going to create this structure. For this is more me, but I like normally to create, let's say, any time of structures or enums or these things that hold information. I like to create a folder called variables, and then I just chunk everything in that because I know everything is related to variables, right? So what we're going to do here is that we're going to right click. I'm going to create a new folder called variables, and then I'm going to bring, drag and drop this one right here. All right. And now what I'm going to do here is that on the variables, I'm just going to call this the inventory, right? And then the inventory is going to be called the ST inventory information. Make sure it's public and make sure this is replicated, right? Make sure you expose that to spawn. And what we're going to do next here is that we're just going to compile and save that. And the next thing we're going to do here is that we're going to open up our inventory variable. And I'm going to go to the structure and I am going to call this the inventory or inventory, let's say name. All right. This is going to be, let's say, a string for now because it's going to be a name. And what we're going to do is that we're going to compile and save. And as you can see, you already have a name here, which is pretty much, which is great. Now, the next thing that we would like to do here is that to load some kind of inventory settings. So the way I see this thing working is that we have some settings, and basically we have settings, things like, can this user trade, can drop items, can you, how many inventory slots can you have, and things like that, right? So we're going to create as a setting within the inventory, because then we can, regulate that on the game. So what we're going to do here is that very easy. We're going to right click and create another structure called st inventory settings. All right. Now for the inventory settings, I'm going to open up, and on the structure, I'm going to create here a very basic information. So for example, I'm just going to give here integer, which is going to be, let's say, size, right? Or let's say max slots. And we're going to have maybe another variable saying can peak or can add. And we're going to have another one can, let's say, drop, right? Not stop, sorry, drop. And drop. And now this is going to be a boolean, and this is going to be a boolean. I'm going to compile and save here. Now the max slot, I think default every game, I think is something around 12 or 24. I'm just going to basically put 12. And what we're going to try to do here, guys, is that we're going to give the option to the player, or to you here, the developer, to choose if you want to use a normal grid system, if you want to use a normal, let's say, list. What kind of inventory do you want? Do you want to drag and drop? What this kind of stuff? So we're going to start with basically with a list, and then after we see if we can do a grid, and then from there we work. But basically just adding settings, and then we can move those settings to permissions and whatever in the future. The idea here is not try to complicate too much in the beginning. We can always abstract this in the future. So we got max slots, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create here a new variable, and I'm going to call it here settings. All right. And here we're going to attach the st inventory settings. And there you go. As you can see, everything is replicated. And now just before we finish this tutorial, what I would like to do here, I'm going to go back to the third person, the map. I'm just going to open up this normal map. And in this project, if you know here, so we have the place where we have the RPG character. And if you open up the base player game, what you will find here is that you're going to find the default POM, right? If I open up the default POM, this is the guy that I would like him to have all the behaviors and changes and stuff. But there's one if to the like there's a thing here that where we would like the logic to happen, because we plan to use this for FPS and let's say any other kind of games. We need to keep that in mind. So the best place to add this inventory system will be on the player controller, because then the player controller can replicate that on the player palm, and the player controller runs on the server, because we will need to replicate that on the server. All right. So what we're going to do here, very, very easy. So we're going to go back to the character, and on the base player, we should have a player controller. Oh, actually we don't. Okay, that's fine. So just right click, blueprint. Let's create here a player controller, and let's just call this BP. And we are going to call this master RPG controller. All right. Actually, I'm just going to add player, because sometimes you may need to search for that, and it makes it easy to search. Now on the player controller, which we just open up the player controller. By the way, you have to tell the game to use the player controller, otherwise it won't work. So where is it? Player controller right here. I just drag and drop right there. That's all you're gonna do. Now, before we finish this lesson, let's just add our component here and make sure everything is working. So BPC inventory, and that's nice. And now what we're gonna do here is that on the VPC inventory, I am just gonna do a little print, and I'm gonna get the inventory. I'm gonna break this stuff. I'm gonna get the name. Okay. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go back to the player controller, and here I should have the inventory name. I'm just gonna call this player. Now when we press play, we should see player. And that's it. That's basically everything that we need for this lesson, guys. So what we did here is that we created a component, we attached the controller, we add a couple of variables, and we're just basically starting to plan the ground. This is gonna be an evolving tutorial, all right? So expect it to be a little bit hard some points, but we're gonna try to make it super easy and clean, right? So we're probably gonna spend a lot of time refactoring and giving names to variables. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and I see you guys in the next one.